Burgundy is, for me, is like super cool and super important because it's,
Yeah.
you know, the place where it's all about terroir
Yeah.
and you know, and I asked you, I remember, Steve, I asked you the other day, is like, well, is it the typical Burgundy style wine? And then I kind of regretted my question because there's no typical Burgundy style over there with.
Well, yeah, it's well, you shouldn't regret. I mean, there's no regretting any questions. But yeah, I suppose what we can on the surface of it, Burgundy is very simple because primarily we use two grapes. I mean, there are exceptions, but primarily Chardonnay for white and Pinot Noir for red. And you know, we speak about terroir, and everyone, you know, people have this impression that maybe Burgundy is one thing, but for us, Burgundy, you know, is a whole lifetime of wine, many different styles, even within. We're going to try a Chablis, and even within Chablis, you could spend your whole life just in Chablis and the different styles of the terroir. You know, 47 different climats, and they all deliver different styles, different expressions, and very excited to try one of them today, which I think is really, really showing exactly what it should for its terroir.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah, I mean, just I suppose we'll touch
Can
on
you
a
hear
bit
me?
of
Okay.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of lost you
Uh,
for five
we
seconds.
touch on just to make sure everyone's on the same page. We can just very quickly touch on some of the basics of Burgundy, just so if anyone is starting off or just interested. So with Burgundy, I suppose there's four classifications of the wine. So we start with regional wine, and then we can move into the village. And the village is just named after the village. For example, Chablis is a village. And then within the village, there's some better quality vineyards. And, you know, they would be called Premier Cru vineyards within a village. And then there's Grand Cru vineyards at the very top of the classification system. And the five main regions of Burgundy. So Chablis and the Côte d'Auxerre is the
Mm-hmm.
most northerly. And then we have the Côte de Nuit and the Côte de Beaune,
Mm-hmm.
which combined become the Côte d'Or. So some people get a little bit mixed up with that. And then the Côte Chalonnais and the Côte Mâconnais. So there are five regions, four classifications, and then you come to the big discussion point of producer, which, you know, for us probably, and for me personally, is probably the most exciting and the element that, you know, doesn't change or changes the most. So, you know, that's very exciting to be in our position where we work with nearly 40 small producers
Wow.
and encourage them to bring their wines to America and to you guys.
Yeah. So that's exciting.
The majority of the producers that we have on our list already. And so their story is, I suppose, they came to America, to Europe 30 years ago from the US and have worked with wine. And Ellie is a fantastic chef. And so through their years, as their clients came from America, they sourced more and more great undiscovered Burgundies. And as time went on, the guests were looking for these wines in America. And so Dennis was shipping them over and trying to find a few more producers to kind of keep everyone happy, because every producer he discovered, people were just excited and wanted to find more of them. And with 3,500 producers, more than that in Burgundy, there's definitely enough producers to be
Yeah.
found. It's just try and find the quality. So yeah, so that's what they do. And then a few years ago, we launched the site burgundywine.com, which has made it easier for people to just go online and buy even a single bottle if they want to start off in Burgundy. We do some great introduction cases. And I think our aim is to try and demystify Burgundy and to kind of break down some of the stereotypes that maybe people have of Burgundy, and to make people realize that Burgundy is affordable, which is very important, you know. And then I think more and more people's palates are just coming to Burgundy as people become more foodies, and you know, these are great food wines. And so I think that people understand Burgundy more than they maybe have in the past, and that's a great thing. It's a great journey. I mean, wine is all about journeys together, and so that's our story. So now we're living in a beautiful place called Domaine de Cromey,
Mm-hmm.
Cromey, and it's really in the middle, the heart of Burgundy. It's on the very southern tip of the Côte d'Or, and it's a 6-bedroom domain. The locals call it a chateau. We've just planted a big vineyard, 7-hectare vineyard outside. So it's all very exciting how it's all very quickly, but still maintaining the authenticity, which is the most important thing, you know. So that's a brief introduction to us and to our.
Can people like purchase, so like people here in the US go to the website and get it delivered here in the US?
Yeah, it's great because they can just go to the website and it's delivered straight to your door. And yeah, it's really it's a really great model. I mean, for all the difficulties that 2020 has thrown up for everybody, you know, we're so lucky that this model has just become so useful for people, and people, it's becoming the norm more and more, I think, to be able to discover. And things like this, you know, being able to wine and enjoy wine like this is really, it's very exciting. It's new for us, obviously, when I connect.
Let's do this more often.
Yeah.
So yeah, so tell me a little bit more about, I talked at the beginning about how terroir is so important in Burgundy, and how maybe some parcels can produce one kind of wine, and then you move to another parcel next to it, like literally next to it, and it can be a completely different wine. Tell me.
It's an interesting question about, you know, how terroir in Burgundy, you know, how we believe in it and we feel it is so different. I mean, the question that we would have here would be, how could anybody think that terroir wasn't different? You know, because it's the opposite way around. I mean, terroir should be different everywhere, and that does give a different expression into the wines. So I think on that element, Burgundy really has it correct, and it's the rest of the wine world that just needs to grasp that even more. I mean, it has become more and more evident in people's understanding of wine, you know, but for Burgundy, we've had that for, you know, the Cistercian monks 1,000 years ago, when they built a wall around a certain vineyard, they got that. And that's one thing that's been held tight to Burgundy, and thank goodness it has, because, you know, the whole thing about all the producers here is they want to express the terroir in the wine. They want to express the difference of the terroir in the wine. And so a wine producer would much prefer to make, you know, 6 or 7 different appellations expressing 6 or 7 different qualities. Someone put it recently like having 6 or 7 children, you know. You don't want to have them, every one of them identical. They have to have their character, but maybe the winemaker is the parent, you know, so. Yeah, that's why. And I think, you know, there's 4,000 different soil types, all the aspects. Terroir is an interesting word because, you know, historically we've always just thought of it as microclimate or geology, soil type, aspect, that kind of thing. But a winemaker recently said that, you know, because it's all of that impacting onto the wine. But a winemaker recently said in Burgundy that terroir should also be tradition, it should be family, it should be the winemaker, not just that winemaker, but the winemakers 5 and 6 generations back, because all of them things are just so ingrained, the same way the terroir is ingrained, you know, in the soil. That
Yeah.
stuff is in wine as well. And so it was an interesting concept change to that word that I kind of thought, yeah, you know, when you're here, you see it and it's real and it makes sense. So yeah, that was one of the definitions of terroir that was just exciting, I
I
thought,
know.
because yeah.
So I'm excited to try the Burgundy that you sent me, and see maybe if there's any terroir that we can identify in there. So
Yeah,
can you take us through? We're gonna do the Burgundy style tasting, right? How is that,
yeah,
Steve?
yeah. We said that. Yeah, well, it is very common. Depends on the winemaker, the winery. You know, the cellar that you step into with the particular winemaker. But it's not uncommon to start with the reds and then move to the whites because Burgundy whites can be so powerful. And we decided to do that today. We have a regional appellation. Yeah, so you'll see Bourgogne on the bottle, so that means regional. But you know, the whole thing is it results right back to the winemaker, and the winemaker here is a guy called Michel Arcelain, and he lives in Pommard. He is absolute legend. He's 90 years old now, has well over 60 vintages
Wow.
finished. Yeah. So I just think his his wines and his philosophy about Burgundy is beautiful. And like the whole thing about regional wines from a small winemaker is these grapes come from the commune of Pommard as well. So Pommard is a village in the Côte de Beaune.
Mhm.
And you know, these tiny villages have big reputations and big names, but they are really small villages. And so because it's a regional appellation vineyard, you can't tell by the bottle that the grapes are grown in the commune of Pommard. You have to know that Michel Arcelain is based there. And so that's the kind of thing that we do on the website. And we do generally, you know, off with the regional wine, then move to the village and Premier Cruise and things like that. So, and you can tell the character of a lot of the winemakers in their wine. And so I was saying, you know, for me, Michel Arcelin's wines, he has this kind of restrained, classy quality to it. It's not like there's nothing brash or kind of like in your face about it. It's just, even with his regional wine like this, it's just a classy wine. So
Yeah.
color, a nice ruby red,
Mm-hmm.
and what do you get on the nose? I
So
think it's quite
I
restrained
I
fruit.
sorry.
I said I think it's quite restrained fruit on the nose for me personally.
I do kind of get some like fresh red fruit, raspberry.
Yeah, I get a little bit of cherry, warm cherry.
This would
I
be
was saying
this would be really
macerated,
good
but
for Thanksgiving.
yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
Thanksgiving dinner. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
And I get a little bit of earthy tones on the nose as well. He doesn't use any new oak in this. There's zero new oak in the wine. Just again to allow,
oh, that's good.
the delicacy of the regional wines, you know, because they want that purity of fruit to come through. The structure isn't as big as a Premier Cruise, so you know they're very careful. The one thing they don't want to do is have anything out of balance.
Yeah,
So no new oak, you know, which is a decision.
that's good. I actually like that a lot because you can't pick up those like vanilla or smoky aromas. It's very elegant, and you pick up a lot of like of the red fresh fruit. like a little bit of hibiscus.
Yeah, I get a little bit of, even on the nose, a little bit of kind of rose on the background. On the mouth, I think the fruit comes through a lot more. A little bit of dried cranberry.
Good acidity, really good
Yeah,
acidity.
thing, you know, all the wines on the list. I mean, one of Dennis Sherman's kind of go-to notes is the refreshing acidity, and Burgundy as well. But like the secret of great wine is this, and that's why they're such great food wines because of that.
This is really good, Steve.
Yeah,
This
you
is
see,
like very
this is
elegant.
yeah, and it's so surprising. It's such great fun for us because this is a regional wine, and this is what I mean about Elden selections trying to change perceptions of
Yeah.
people with Burgundy, because they think, oh, you know, you have to, you know, we have a phrase in Ireland, it's funny, you know, you have to take out a second mortgage to go and buy a bottle.
Well, those are kind of like the perceptions. So what kind of perceptions do you think a lot of the US, other than the price, what is like another perception that people might get about Burgundy and that they won't buy?
Yeah, I think there are, well, it's like everything in life and wine. I think there's perceptions, and then not all of them are true. I mean, some are based on true. There's certainly some expensive Burgundies around, and the expensive ones are, you know, if price isn't a consideration, they're amazing wines.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it's not the wine's fault that it's suddenly become horrifically expensive. The market is kind of, you know, responsible for some of that. Um, but someone once again gave the analogy of like buying wine is a little bit like betting on a horse, you know, and what you want to deliver when you're bringing wine to people is the kind of undiscovered gamble, the undiscovered wine that, you know, hasn't reached a marketplace where the price of the wine doesn't relate to the experience. But so for us, you know, to be able to bring a regional wine at this kind of price is really exciting, and we've got 30 wines under $35
Yeah.
on the site, and that's delivered with free shipping. So, you know, so many websites,
How much did you say?
it's, yeah, we've got 30 wines under $35.
Wow.
And like so many websites, they, you know, they price up a wine at a great price, but then they charge a bucket load for shipping. So
Yeah.
we feel like we don't want to do that. We don't want to be that kind of company.
Mm-hmm.
So we mark up the price, and then on full case shipments, it's a free shipping. And so with the range of wines that we have, you know, it's very easy to have a complete blend of all the regions that we spoke about, classifications that we spoke about, and, you know, it's exciting. So, but yeah, I'm delighted that you like this. I mean, I
Beautiful.
have this kind of record thing about this wine that it reminds me of a vintage car, but I was saying like a really classy one, like a vintage Aston Martin or something, because it's not. There's nothing in it that's like. There's, you know, if it. There's nothing in it that just. There's nothing in it that's brash or aggressive. I get a kind of a. Of all his wines, I get like a kind of a iron note in the middle on the palate.
How does iron smell? I don't know
Yeah,
that one. That's a new one for me.
it's a taste. It's a taste. Next time you get like a slightly
Okay.
iron piece of iron, like a skillet pan.
Okay.
It's a bit like when you suck a rock, you know? You get that
Like
feeling.
chalky,
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And it's
right?
like
Yeah, I do get some of the very light rose. You mentioned flower
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
I get rose on the finish, definitely. And like for this regional wine, and Michel Arcelin's wines a lot, you know, I think that when you really open them up in your mouth properly, that's when they kind of deliver. And especially on the regional wine, like for him, some producers it's not like that. But because he makes the wine so graceful and round, to be able to individually decipher the elements, you need to kind of bust open the compounds. But but in one sense, you don't need to, you shouldn't do that because the whole experience of
Mhm.
just drinking the wine whole is is where the pleasure is.
So I'm gonna say I'm extremely surprised for being an original. Not very surprised, but I am very
Yeah,
like in love with this wine.
yeah,
It's very elegant and very well balanced, and the acidity is just beautiful.
yeah,
And with the red fresh fruit, and not using new oak is just I think it's a great wine. But I do want to know a little bit more on, when you go look for like the different small producers that you want to share in the US. So I want to know, how do you, and being so many different kind of Burgundy styles in Burgundy, so
yeah.
how do you say like, oh, I think this one will be a good one to share to the US based on how they're buying? Or are you having like any issues of saying, they won't buy this kind of style? Do you like know what the US people usually
Yeah.
buy? How do you do it?
It's it's an really really interesting question, and I don't think there's any right one way because everyone has their wine journey that they embark on. And a lot of our clients are experienced Burgundy
Yeah.
drinkers, and they know what to expect, and they know what they want to expect,
Mm-hmm.
and um, so then we're delivering the typicity. So we're just meeting the expectations of them, and then there's this whole exciting group
Here.
that we're discovering that are moving to Burgundy from other regions. And so for that, it's a different expectation for the palate because, you know, they're used to drinking maybe heavily oaked wines, maybe Chardonnay that has a lot of creaminess or butteriness compared to the Chablis we'll drink today. So there's a journey that I feel we need to help, and we do try our best to help people with the expectation of the transition on their palate.
Yeah.
Because the one thing as wine lovers we should all fight against is a homogenization of wine. You know, that's the worst thing that could happen to wine worldwide, I believe. You know, we need to try and keep differences, celebrate differences, and that's what we do. So within them, both them markets, I think we have a lot of fun, um, because discovering, like for example, new producers in Rouge or down in the Macon, or in Saint-Romain, you know, these slightly less well-known villages compared to the famous ones, is is really to find a great winemaker there is as exciting as finding or discovering or agreeing to have a great winemaker from Von Romanée or Geoffroy Chambertin
Mm-hmm.
for us, because it all just comes back to the wine in the glass. I mean, Dennis has really taught me that, you know, we evaluate the wine in the glass. If the wine is good enough, then we're excited to bring it to people. And there's always a good lesson and story behind good wine. So that's easy, you know. Um, so, but the wine has to stand up on its own. So we don't
Yeah.
really focus. I mean, we do want to have a balanced portfolio, balanced library of our range, but we already have that. So we just keep looking, keep trying, keep tasting wines, and hoping that we find more people that come up to the standard that we've set. And we're lucky, I think, the more well, the last 6 months we found four producers that we think are good enough, and so that's very exciting. It all started off at the very start with Dennis. He said to me that, like I said at the very beginning, when they found a good winemaker, they asked that winemaker, who do they know that makes good wine?
Yeah.
And so that's how it started at the beginning. And now with the site burgundywine.com and even things like this with social media, I think winemakers are able to see and find out, who's authentic and who's not, who's living in Burgundy, who's not, who's really supporting small producers and who's not. And they know by your list what your palate, if your palate is on point or not, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And I will, like, I'm not too, I don't usually purchase that much Burgundy not because I don't want to, but because, I have to find a research, a place to go buy it, right? It's not like I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to see Burgundy in there.
Yeah,
I go to the store and I'm only going to see, if I'm looking for a Pinot Noir, I'm only going to see California Pinot
yeah,
Noirs. And
yeah,
I don't have that many option. So I think what you guys are doing is great, of,
yeah.
having Burgundy wines accessible and not just the expensive one,
No,
that
but
like I think of certain wines and I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna cost me thousands of dollars to get a
yeah,
bottle.
yeah.
So I'm
That's the
really
thing, and
excited.
even when you do make the leap and say, okay, I'm gonna try and explore Burgundy, I mean, that's why on the surface it's so simple with these simple grape varieties, just these few classifications, these few regions. But then you add in like thousands and thousands of winemakers, and
Yeah.
that's suddenly where you feel a little bit overwhelmed. So that's the exciting point. But it's like everything. Once you go on the journey, have the experience with someone that you trust, then it can be rewarding. And that's what wine is, I think.
So yeah, so let's move on, so that we can, I have also several questions about Chardonnay, and
Okay.
so let's move on to Chablis, which is a Chardonnay, even though, so it's so funny because I saw a documentary yesterday about Burgundy, and they were talking about the two main grapes in Burgundy are Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. But then this person says that he asked, every time he asks someone like, "Hey, do you like Chardonnay?" And then they're like, that person said that, "Oh, I don't like Chardonnay, but I do like Chablis."
Yeah.
So I think it's like a very typical. And when I heard
Yeah.
that guy said that, I'm like, oh my God, I would be that person that will answer like, "Oh, but I do like Chablis." And the
I,
guy was like, "Why do they answer that? It is Chardonnay."
I know, but I honestly think I think we've all been that person, because that's what wine. I don't know. Is there any wine experts? The more experts I meet, they honestly say to me things like, "The more I know, the more I realize I don't know." And so we've all probably been that person where you think you don't realize that Chardonnay or that Puligny Montrachet is Chardonnay, or any of these huge wines, Meursault Chardonnay,
Mhm.
and especially when you drink them, because why, in one sense, why would you think that Chablis is Chardonnay when it's so different from what you've experienced or your life as Chardonnay? So, your palate is probably saying to you, well, this does not taste like Chardonnay because you haven't tasted Chardonnay like this before. That's probably the way. So I think it's a common thing. People should admit it more that they had that at some stage, that feeling. But once you realize it is Chardonnay, I think when you take a wine like Chablis, this Chablis, then you can't deny the effect of terroir.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point, because Chardonnay's grown all over the world. It's a really, really versatile, the most versatile grape. It puts up with a lot of abuse, Chardonnay.
Yeah.
But when it's treated correctly, it can deliver amazing, amazing wines. Some of the winemakers here describe Chardonnay as the delivery truck. They use it to deliver the terroir from to you. That's what it is, and but a respectful delivery truck. And so, the different expressions of Chardonnay, even within Burgundy, is amazing. So here we are.
So I want to put it in front of the white.
And
So look at this color.
The producer. So it's Domaine Jean Dauvissat Pierre et Fils. So the winemaker is actually a guy called Fabien Dauvissat. I know. This is
the aromas. It's like amazing. It's like so pronounced. The intensity of the aromas are just beautiful. So
yeah.
You're probably laughing off my face that when I smelled it.
No, it is really.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, this wine is singing. It's perfect.
Gorgeous.
Just a little bit about the winery. So Jean Dauvissat was the dad, and again a little bit like Michel Arcelain, who's passing on the winery to his grandson. This is the winery moving down generation as well, from father to son, and the son is Fabien, and he's kind of taken a whole strong grip of this winery and changed the perception of it completely. He's decided basically he's going to go for it. He's lowered the yield and improved just dramatically everything within the structure of the winemaking process and farming and viticulture. And I think you can really see the results that it's working, and it's quite exciting in Burgundy. This guy is kind of the up and coming star of Burgundy now, and the Burgundy where winemakers are like sports stars in the rest of the world, and this guy is.
So I do pick up, like, I don't usually like pick up pineapple and like Chablis, but
yeah.
but I do pick up a little bit in there.
Yeah.
A little tropical fruit.
Yeah, I think yeah, the development of the flavors in the wine have just this wine is 2016, but it's just like, I think it's drinking so well. I got kind of very, very ripe pear, but not oxidized, but like ripe pear.
Yeah.
But I do also get, Lily, my wife, was like, it's like exotic pear. That was her description.
I like that. Yeah.
I thought that was, yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I wish I had that one. I wish I'd said that one.
But it is like a little bit more in the ripened pear.
Yeah.
Almost like when it's already like a little bit soft and very juicy. So I almost feel like I'm like, without even tasting it yet, like I feel like I just gave a bite of like a very softer pear.
Yeah, but absolutely zero oxidation, because sometimes when you think of a pear that ripe, quality, you think, okay, well, there's a slight oxidation to it, but there's none in this. It's so bright.
It's beautiful how the aromas are changing. Like I feel like I pick up something new every time I put my nose in.
Yeah, but this vineyard is on the left bank of the Seine, so left bank of the village, which is kind of considered the more mineral, like the Grand Cru is on the right hand side.
Can you repeat that again? Because it got cut. So you said it's in what side and why?
So Montmains, the vineyard, this Premier Cru vineyard is on the left side of the village. So the left bank of the village. It's quite interesting in Chablis because you can, one time, we'll do another one where we do a right bank, left bank tasting, similar to kind of coming from that Bordeaux style of right bank, left bank. But you can do right bank, left bank, same producer, same year. It's really, really exciting. You'll see the difference of the terroir. But Montmains is on the left bank, kind of southeast facing aspect. And the kind of overriding expectation from Montmains, a really good one, is mineral. I mean, I know it's an overused word, but with this vineyard, you know, it's the home of it. You know, it's like the soils are very, very rocky, and you know, the vines suck up that kind of feeling element from the rocks there. And I think even with the fruit structure or floral notes or anything else that we kind of describe, like I get a little bit of hay and almond off it as well. But I think the minerality is the thing that overrides everything. It's like a blanket over the whole thing, this kind of beautiful minerality that you don't always get everywhere in Chablis. Like I said earlier, you could spend your life drinking Chablis and have different experiences. But this one from this vineyard is exactly what it should be, you know, very exciting.
So what year is this? This is a 2016 also.
Yeah.
So how was the weather? Do you know?
Yeah. It was hit with frost early in 2016, which really reduced the yield, and so concentrated the fruits. But the yield on this was actually 25,000 hectoliters per hectare, which is minuscule. I think I had worked it out. I think it's 1.6 tons per acre.
Okay.
I mean, for Grand Cru here, it's 35 hectoliters. So, you know, this is what I mean about some people I'm going a little bit off on tangent here, but some people drink the classifications. They drink, I've met people and they're like, I only drink Grand Cru or Premier Cru. I don't drink anything under that, you know. And you're like, you don't get it, because this drinks like a Grand Cru, you know, but it's a Premier Cru.
So I gave it a sip while you were speaking because I just wanted to try it so bad. It's I love it.
And another thing, no oak.
Yeah, of course. So
No.
and that's normal, right? It's like in Chablis, yeah. It's not usual that someone is going to use oak, right?
Some of the Grand Crus see oak, and some of the Premier Crus do. But the kind of the feeling is it's not to be detected. It's not to be obvious, really. You know, but I mean, sometimes a little bit of oak can help to the structure if the wine is able to take it. This wine could take it, but the winemaker has just gone 100% purity, 100% typicity, and you know, and it's a great. But there is a lot of aging on the lees, so fine lees, which gives the wine that kind of body feeling. And I think I get a lot of not a lot because the minerality is kind of protecting everything, but I get hay and I get kind of a little bit of almond in that wine, and then the tertiary flavors are coming through because of the age. So even like the wine is obviously completely dry, but there is a sweetness, there's a beauty, kind of caramelization that's just coming into the wine, and that's just the age that you can just see starting in it. So yeah, I love it. It's great wine.
It's a great wine. Like, I'm just thinking I want to go buy some oysters and just or something fresh. I don't have oysters here, but
yeah. So well, yeah, Chablis is built on, you know, the foundations of is Kimmeridgian clay, which is, you know, fossilized marine life, fossilized oysters, and so classically the food pairing is shellfish. But more and more, the you know, food and wine pairing is evolving. I think I was saying this to you before, and it's very exciting. You know, I think because great wine goes with great food a lot of the time, and you know, there are some classic pairings, but strict pairings, I think, should be disregarded a little bit, and we should just drink the wine we love with great food that we love. And as wines from around the world come, some of them are amazing with Burgundies, you know, because of the acidity.
Yeah. So what are one of, like, other than oysters, what would be one thing that will go really good with this wine?
We drank this recently with like a truffle ravioli, and like truffle generally kind of think, you know, okay, we'll want something deeper, but this is definitely powerful enough. And it was a kind of a heavy dish, but this gave it the kind of refreshing acidity that we needed every time that we have it. But I've also had this with like a bagel and smoked salmon, you know. So,
It
you know,
sounds actually pretty amazing.
yeah. And that's what I mean about these food and wine pairings. You know, I think that, you know,
Well,
this is,
I'm tasting it and I feel like I'm drinking like lemonade. I don't know why.
yeah,
It's very citrusy and easy to drink, but it almost feel like with a bagel, and it's like a perfect picnic wine, and
yeah.
it's really good.
Yeah, I think you know, we have 4 premier crus from this guy from Jean Dauvissat on the website, and his village wine again coming back in Chablis. You know, they have a thing called Petit Chablis, which is kind of like the regional wine. It's grown on Portland, a little bit different terroir, but again, great quality. But then you move into the village. So village Chablis, so not Premier Cru, not Grand Cru, just the village. But his village Chablis is just awesome, you know. And we have another great Chablis producer, these 2 sisters, Udam Sisters, and so if you go onto the site and just look at the range from Chablis, that's a great place just to kind of start the journey. And just touching back onto Chardonnay, or you know, Chardonnay from Burgundy, Burgundian white wine. You know, people that love red wine historically, it's a great way to introduce you because they're so powerful. They give you the punch, the intensity that you kind of have yearned for in reds from elsewhere in the world. And like we've got some of my favorite people that we work with that drink white wine now started off saying, you know, oh, I don't drink white. I only drink red. Send me a case of red, and you send a case of 10 red or 10 red and 2 white, you know, with permission, but you know, and then they come back and be like, can't believe I really enjoyed that white wine so much, you know. But when it tastes hard not to.
It's so good. Like, so we're getting very close. We're getting very close to the end of the hour, and Instagram is just going to cut our conversation. But you know, I almost feel like we can. I can't believe that 1 hour went already so fast. You know, because we can keep talking, and I have so many other questions about Burgundy. There's so many things to learn about Burgundy and the different regions, the different producers. So I really hope we can do this again. If you guys are good with it, I'll do right after this. I'll do a poll with my followers, just so that, you know, if they're interested in learning a little bit more about Burgundy and the wines from Elden, maybe we can pick some other wines to try, and we can just keep talking about them.
There's definitely enough wines. That's for sure. I mean, you know, when you're here and you just see all the, because we haven't even touched on the Côte de Beaune and all the great, you know, there's so many. I mean, but yeah, we're very lucky. And I suppose with Elden selections and through BurgundyWine.com, we're lucky that I feel so lucky that, you know, me and Lily just kind of arrived into the situation, and working under Dennis and Ellie and learning from them. It is a real privilege, you know. And
Yeah, and thank you for making me part of it. And I am actually very excited to be part of it and learn a little bit more. You're also a Wset educator.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's really, I mean, I love that because it does keep me connected to worldwide wine, because, you know, the WSET is not just Burgundy. And that's one of the masters of wine I was teaching under. That was one of the first things they said to me when I was moving here. They were like, "Now be careful, because it's not, you know, we're not just Burgundy, we're everywhere." And yeah, that's the workbook for. They're a great organization, and we actually have a WSET school here in the Domaine. So you'll have to come over. I suppose that's the obvious thing. And if anyone is really, I mean, Domaine de Cromey, the place here, you know, the experience that people get when they come here. Usually we have a week which is fully inclusive, and we visit winemakers, the history of Burgundy. I mean, the food is a given, because, you know, we have a great pastry chef, a great chef, and, you know, the ingredients that we have here. Like, you know, I was saying when we were drinking this wine or tasting it just before we hooked up, my favorite cheese at the moment is Apois, which is a little village up beside Chablis. And, you know, if you taste that with this wine, it's like heaven. So, you know, it's perfect. It's so, you know, it's so authentic. You know, the delivery, because Ellie and Dennis have been here for 30 years, and they're all about authenticity. Authenticity of wine, and the vegetable garden here, and the winemakers that we meet. And it's just like, it's real. And it just, you know. And so
That's awesome.
that's the, that's the next, that's the
Beautiful.
next, well, maybe not the next one. We'll hook up a couple of times, and then when the world returns to normal, it'll be a trip to Domaine de Cromey would be.
Oh, I'm dying to go. I know who to call now.
Yeah, yeah. And
Well,
then you'll be able to meet the man himself, Michel Arcelain.
that
And
will
it's
be
such a
amazing.
story there. Just very briefly, I'll touch on it before we go.
Yes.
But like I said, he's 90 now. And so the idea was his one of his daughters was going to take over the winery, and he was going to retire at a normal age. And for certain reasons, Burgundy, you know, not as fashionable at that time, and there was other things that were a bit more attractive. But anyway, it didn't happen. The next generation didn't want it, and Michel's response was, "No problem. I'll just wait for the next generation to come along." So now his grandson is 24. His grandson now is 24, and working side by side, Pierre, who's also like very exciting winemaker in Pommard, and about to, and working with him to take over. And so it's just, you know, it's just again that story, a little bit like the Jean Dauvissat wine, story of family, the story, you know, succession, and when it goes well, it's great, because we're here and we see it going well. We see the ones that work, you know, because not every succession works. Sometimes the winemaker coming up may not be as good as the one that's there.
Well, it's not a skill that is just happens, right? It's like it has to be so many factors.
Yeah. And the thing about Burgundy is, I mean, the strength of it is the classification is in the terroir. But, you know, if there's a poor winemaker, you don't realize it on the bottle. You can't see it. There's no way of detecting it. You know, where other regions, because they're more brand based, they can protect, they protect it in different ways. But Burgundy, you need to be here to see what's happening, to know
Yeah,
what's going on in the bottle. So
that's
that's
great.
the lesson for today.
No, thank you so much. So we have very limited time, but if there's a question that anybody wants to ask really quick, just ask it now. If not, then you know, go to their page, follow them so that you can stay in touch. Also follow my account so that I can keep you posted in next lives that we might be doing together. So yeah, so and then if you
Brilliant.
have questions on the wines that we have tried, also let me know, and either to Elden Selections or to myself, and I will give you any information on where to contact. And again, Stephen, can you tell me again the website where people
Yeah,
can go?
we're burgundywine.com. It's pretty a good website to remember. And with Elden Selections, follow us on our YouTube channel. We try and do a lot of recipes and wine tastings there, and we're going to do some Burgundy lessons there. And obviously our Instagram, Elden Selections, and our Facebook page, Elden Selections. So
Perfect.
listen, thank you very much. You've held my hand. I appreciate it.
No, thank you so much, Stephen. And thank you for Elden Selections, who also was part of all this logistics and make it happen. And
Yeah.
so again, these are the wines that we just tried, but I will be putting them in my Instant Stories. And also this video will be recorded and will be put in my IGTV channel there in my Instagram account so that you can access and watch it, and if you missed anything. Okay, well, thank you so much, Stephen, and
Take care.
cheers.
Bonne nuit.